Ciao friends and welcome to Simple Italian Cooking. My name is Liz and I am so happy that you're here today because I've got a really great easy recipe that uses a not so popular vegetable, and that is cauliflower. We're going to turn this vegetable into something that everybody is going to love, whether it's a snack or for a picnic or a gathering or whatever it may be. And we're making fried cauliflower, and this is not a breaded recipe. This is using a batter that is really, really easy to make. And honestly, once you get the principle down with the batter, you'll be able to do more than just cauliflower. But cauliflower is kind of tricky, and this was a little bit of a tough one for me. The first thing you're going to do is heat up a pot of water. And the reason why we're doing this, and it needs to be salted, so we got to add just a little bit of salt into it. And the reason why we're doing it is because we have to actually boil the cauliflower for about 8 minutes. And the reason why we do that is because it's not going to taste good if you don't. That's the basic reason. But we need to get this ready. So you can do this two ways. You can put the cauliflower in whole as one big head. You know, we're going to cut off this. So no matter which way you're going to do it, you have to get rid of these greens. So that's the first thing we're going to do. But what you can do, you can put the whole head of cauliflower in at one time. Or what you can do is chop up the cauliflower and then put those pieces in. And that's actually what I'm going to do because it's going to be easier for me to handle. I don't have to worry about the cauliflower being really hot or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and just cut off all the leaves. And you'll see here that we have a stem. We want to cut that off and get rid of it, okay? So now we have the cauliflower. It sits on the countertop nice and solid. Again, you can put this in as a whole. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and cut it up. Now, a lot of times in some recipes and in Italian tradition, the cauliflower is cut in a way so that it's called cauliflower steaks, okay? That's like kind of just the term. If you do a search online, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I wanted to do the recipe that way, but I just found that cutting the cauliflower as a steak, and I'll show you kind of how it would be done. You cut it down the center this way, and then what you do is you cut it into about 1 inch or 1.5 inch widths. A lot of times you can do that for grilling, and I don't mind showing you. I do like it when they're flat like this, okay? I think it's pretty cool. But in this case, what I'm going to do is I am going to just kind of cut out that stem. And what that does is it allows the cauliflower to still be flat. Okay, so it doesn't have to be a big round piece of cauliflower like a regular floret. Or if you want to do it as a floret, like this, then you can certainly do that as well. You'll see here that this is one that's just pretty much a basic floret. No problem if you want to do it that way. You can try cutting it in half, make it a little flatter. So the flatter, the better. The problem is that sometimes it can cause the cauliflower to fall apart. And you know what? If it does, don't worry about it. It'll be okay. We're going to go ahead and just finish cutting these up. And again, doesn't have to be perfect at all. Okay, and then we're going to toss them in here. So again, you can see here's a piece that just fell off. It's in no particular shape. I don't really care. It doesn't matter. In the end, it really doesn't matter. Okay, the salted water is boiling, so we're going to just go ahead and put these in. And we're going to boil them for about 8 minutes. Now, the goal is not to have mushy cauliflower, okay? The goal is to have it so it's just tender, okay? Now, the funny thing is you might be thinking, do we really have to do this? I resisted doing the cauliflower in the boiling water. If I can do a shortcut, I'm all for it. But this is one shortcut you really can't do in order to have a good recipe. The reason is because I actually did this. I did it with boiling and without, okay? And what happens is two things. When you don't boil it, it is so crunchy that even when you fry it, it is still super crunchy. Second of all, when you boil it, besides all of that, when you boil it, you actually bring out more of the cauliflower flavor. And when you do that, your end result is going to be so much better than if you hadn't. So you're not only just dealing with the texture, you're also dealing with the flavor. And the batter that we're going to be using doesn't have barely any seasoning in it. I know you're freaking out. Why would we even do that? It does have some, but we're going to go over that next. Okay, so we have about 5 to 8 minutes. You can even maybe go 10, but you're probably cutting it a little bit close. So we're just going to let that boil, and we're going to go ahead and do the batter. Batter is super easy, and all you need is flour, salt, and pepper. Now, I want to tell you that there are some other types of recipes that are out there that will suggest using other ingredients in addition to this. This is a very basic batter that I'm using, and my husband and I have been wanting to mimic his mother's recipe, which really there was no recipe. We're talking probably about 10 to 15 years ago. One time, no, it had to be more than 10 years ago, probably about 13 to 15 years ago, we were visiting. She was in the kitchen cooking up some cauliflower. This way, she put it in a batter and served it to us. It was delicious, and he and I end up having two different recollections of how she did it. And so he and I went back and forth quite a bit on who was right and what ingredients did she use. And you know, I think the bottom line is nobody really knows, because she did it, but she would just throw stuff together and it always came out good. And so it's just understanding the basic principles and knowing how far you can actually go with something. So he and I worked with the batter, tried different things, and I think we finally got it to how we both remember it tasting. So one thing is, and again, I'm not saying that this is her exact recipe, but I think we got it pretty close. And neither one of us remember egg being used. So a lot of times when you do a batter, you use egg. But he and I are both pretty confident that she did not do that for this particular. It doesn't mean she hadn't in the past, but I'm adding about 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt in here. Maybe a little bit. I don't know, around there. And I'm kind of added more pepper than I normally would. So, okay. So, in fact, we even tried like sprinkling it on afterwards and this and that. And I'm like, I think it just needs to go in with the flour mix in the actual batter itself. So I'm using 1 cup of flour. And I'm telling you, these are approximations. It's going to be different probably every time you do it. So I'm just giving you measurements so that you can have a starting guideline, which is the same way that I would have wanted it when I was really learning how to cook Italian. So I'm going to start, what is this? There's 1 cup of water in here, and I don't think I'm going to need it all. The goal that we're looking for is a thick pancake consistency. Okay, and I say thick because when my husband and I were talking about it, and his view of what a pancake batter should look like is different than mine. And we were going back and forth. I'm like, this is like a pancake. And he's like, no, it's got to be thicker. It's, you know, and so anyway, and the cool thing with this is it's very forgiving. So if you add too much water and it's too thin, then simply just add some more flour. Okay, so let's see how we do that. That is a 1-to-1. And these quantities are going to change, so it's really about getting the consistency down. Now, if you start off with 1 cup and 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of water, and then another time maybe you're not doing as much, you just cut back. The goal is to get the consistency correct. And you can use a whisk. I'm using a spoon just because. Okay, so I'm happy with this for now. And I'm just gonna go ahead, and this is why I have a pie plate here, is because I like the fact that it has the deep sides on it, and it spreads it out so I can put more cauliflower in there, makes the dipping in it, the coating, much more easier in my opinion. I remember when I was trying to get the recipe from my mother-in-law, I don't know, years ago, and I was like, how did you do that recipe with the cauliflower? It was like a long time ago, and I was like, what was the batter? She's like, I don't know, just flour, some water, add it in, mix it up. I'm like, well, what were the quantities? And she's like, I don't know, you just do it. And it's true, you know, so you know, it's hard to come up with a specific quantity. A specific measurement is really what I should say. All right, so I'm going to see how we're doing here. Yeah, I can pierce it, and I don't want it to get mushy. And what do you know? It actually was about 7.5 minutes. Okay, so we're going to drain this, and then we want to run it under some cold water because we want to stop that cooking, okay? Okay, so we have the strained pasta, and I ran it under cold water in my strainer. No, did I say pasta? I meant cauliflower. Okay, so I have about a half a cup, maybe about a third of a cup of olive oil in here, and I'm just going to go ahead and heat this up. I'm using my induction burner. It heats up really fast. It keeps a nice, good, consistent temperature. I'm also using a splatter guard because I know that the oil is going to splatter. And I also am going to be using a long-handled tongs, which I really recommend. It'll help keep your arms and your hands from burning from the oil. And I also always like to have a plate off to the side with some paper towels on it, and that's where the cauliflower is going to go. And you can dredge the cauliflower however you like. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of put them in and with my hand and coat it with the batter. And you can see how thick this batter is. And if you need to thin it out a little bit, that's fine too. And just do this for as many cauliflower as you can while the olive oil is heating. All right, just check if the if the olive oil is done. Okay, now we're getting some sizzle, so that's good. So I'm just going to go ahead and gently place the battered cauliflower into the oil. And what we're going to do is we're going to let them fry for about 3 minutes on each side. Uncommon that when you're coating the cauliflower with the batter that sometimes the cauliflower will just fall apart and you'll get little pieces like this that just they're just a little tiny floret, and you know what I say? Who cares? Add it in, it's totally okay. You're gonna see in the end how it's delicious no matter what size it is. That was actually another thing my husband and I went back and forth on. He remembers Nina, his mother, serving them in little, there was more like a circle, okay? Probably about the shape of this. And I remember the one that I got was much bigger. It was more like a steak, the steak shape. It wasn't huge, but it was very flat and, thick. But you know what I think? I think we're both right. Because when I cut it into steaks, trying to do it as steaks, a lot of the pieces will fall off and they'll break, or they'll tear, or you're left with just pieces that you couldn't cut that way anyway because maybe it's on the end of it. So I think maybe we both got it both, but we were really going back and forth because we had very strong memories on what we remember seeing when she made it for us. And she only made it for us that once. Okay, good. Now we're talking. And the olive oil is happy, it's clapping. Oops, that one can go a little longer. If you're wondering about the sides, how would you cook the side of the cauliflower? It's because some of these are kind of thick because it's like a big floret. You'll really be surprised. Just the heat alone from the olive oil, even if it's not totally submerged in the olive oil, it will still cook the sides. So you don't have to like keep turning them over and on the sides or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up this cauliflower, and then we'll see how it turns out. And before I forgot to mention when talking about what else you can do with the batter, you can put cheese in it. So you can put, I would put some Romano cheese or Parmesan cheese would probably be just as fine for this particular recipe. But I don't think it's needed. The cheese will up the flavor a bit. But you know what? I think that the flavor alone, without the cheese, it just works with the cauliflower, with the frying and stuff. But if you want to add some cheese, I would probably recommend giving the quantity of batter that I made. I would probably put in about 1/4 to 1/3 of a cup if you really want to have that cheese flavor. Again, I don't think it's totally necessary, but you can certainly try it. And just to show you, I'll try and get a close-up of this for you. But this is about what we are looking for with the color of the cauliflower and the batter. If you're unsure about the 3 minutes on each side, just know that really what you need to look for is that golden brown color that I showed you before. So whether it's 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 4 minutes, don't sweat it. You're just looking for that nice golden brown color. Some of this stuff out of the way. Yeah, here's a nice one. What a great way to eat cauliflower. I love fried cauliflower. Actually, I love fried almost anything. Really good. I hope you try it. Again, try different variations. Try adding in some of that Romano or Parmesan cheese. I know that will taste good. I've done very similar recipes in the past, but I hope you like this one. And remember, if you do, please like and subscribe. Really helps the channel and allows me to be able to continue to provide these type of recipes that are easy Italian recipes for you. Thanks so much for watching. Grazie. Ciao.